permanent member of SCOPA.
Afternoon. My name is Nomin Kondle. I'm an alternate to this committee.
Thank you, AG. Over to you.
Thank you, Honorable Chair and Honorable Members. My name is...
Oh, the members online. Sorry, our member Pat Lecker. Over to you, member. And ORC member. Yeah, okay. Go.
Good afternoon, Chair. My name is Pat Lecker. I'm a member for this committee. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Chair and colleagues. I am Basil Petrus, member.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honorable Chair, Honorable Members. My name is Sangeeta Callan. I'm with the AGSA.
Good afternoon, Chair, members of the committee, Chairperson of the Audit Committee. My name is Masipole with the AGSA. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Chair. My name is Beauty Miende, also with the AGSA. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Chair, and good afternoon, honorable members. My name is Thomas Mamohwe, and I'm also with the AGSA.
Good afternoon, Chair and honorable members. My name is Andrew Davids, and I'm the Audit Committee Chairperson. Thank you.
It's not really. Oh, good afternoon, Chairperson and members. My name is Tsepo Mutlumi, Auditor General Office. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Chairperson and the members and the Audit Committee. My name is Ramgele Bam. I'm with the AGSA.
Thank you very much. I'm going to ask the AG to do the presentation, then we'll ask some questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. I'm going to hand over to Masipole, who will be doing the presentation for local government for us.
HOD and Department. I'm Leon van Wyk, member of the Public Accounts Committee.
Good afternoon. My name is Noko Masipa.
Good afternoon. My name is Beauty Stoffels.
Afternoon, my name is Nomin Kondlo.
Members online?
Good afternoon, Basil Petrus.
Member Lekker, are you there? Oh, she's on hold. Okay. Okay, over to you, Minister and the HOD for introductions.
Anton Bardell, MEC for Local Government.
Good afternoon, honourable members. Graham Paulson, Head of Department.
Grant Cook, Community Development Works Program.
Pedro Solomons, Financial Management.
Pavna Silal Singh, Finance.
Bodhi Jacobs, Finance.
Heidi Saul, Finance.
Good afternoon, Colin Dana, Disaster Management.
Good afternoon, Chair and Honourable Members. Sandra Greiling, Municipal Performance Monitoring and Support.
Good afternoon, members. Honourable Chair, I'm Maurice Brand from Municipal Infrastructure.
Good afternoon, Chair and members. Blanche Cancross, Internal Audit.
Good afternoon, Chair and members. Ritson van der Rensburg, Provincial Forensic Services.
Good afternoon, Chair and members. Mornay Williams from Internal Audit.
Good afternoon, honourable members. Albert Lungu, Policy and Strategic Support.
Good afternoon, honourable members. I'm Sonia Chinian from Disaster Management.
Good afternoon, honourable members. My name is Siabonga Mwev. I'm on Municipal Performance Monitoring and also ICT Support.
Afternoon, Chairperson, honourable members. Gary Birch, Specialised Support. Thanks.
Afternoon, Chair and honourable members. Kamal McCann, Municipal Governance.
Good afternoon, Chairperson members. Nabil Rylands, Disaster Management.
Good afternoon, Chair and members. I'm Craig Mitchell, Public Participation.
Good afternoon, Chairperson and honourable members. Abigail Robinson, Service Delivery Integration.
Good afternoon, Chairperson, honourable members. Rian van Vieren, Integrated Development Planning.
Afternoon, honourable members. Nozuko Zamplaka, Integrated Service Delivery.
Back there, the Auditor General.
Masikoli, AGSA.
Good afternoon, Beauty Miende, AGSA. Good afternoon. I am Simamgele Bam. I'm with the AGSA.
Thank you very much. Member Vessels and Johnson joined us. And Member Pat Lekker, are you online now?
Yes, Chair, I'm online.
Thank you. We've done the introductions and we're going to give the Minister and the HOD opportunity just to do introductions. And Minister, congratulations on your 12 consecutive clean audits. And we are, before you start, Minister, just to give the committee some guidelines. We're going to do 3 members at a time, 2 questions per member, and then we'll revert back just to give a fair opportunity for the department to grasp and to answer. So it's 3 members at a time, 2 questions at a time, and then I'll get back to the other members. Over to you, Minister.
Yeah, Chairperson, thank you, and thank you for the opportunity. We've started off this morning, and I've done my introduction then, just to say that yes, our politicians, we claim the successes, but the 12 clean audits, we've got our CFO and her team, and the HOD and his team. It's a team effort. So congratulations to the whole department. It's not my work, it's their work. So, but with that, we've prepared well. So hopefully we will be able to field the questions. Thank you, Chair.
HOD?
Thank you, Honourable Chairperson. Just to connect with the Minister, it is an achievement, the 12 consecutive clean audits. We said in our discussions last week, the Auditor General is becoming increasingly difficult. Auditor General expects more, so we need to do more. And it's not easy. So I've said under the guidance of the Minister, to the CFO, as well as her entire management team, sincere gratitude. I think also to Albert and his team, policy and strategy, obviously in relation to the APP deliverables, but also to the entire management team and each and every official. My sincere gratitude towards this. In the difficult circumstances, we keep our head down and we do the work to the best of our ability. So it is an achievement, and thank you very much, Ms. Honourable Chairperson.
Thank you very much, Minister and HOD. Members, we're going to do governance. That's page 79 to 92. And then we're going to go over to 131. That is PFMA compliance to 138. And then we're going to do financial information. That is 142 to 203. So we're going to do it in that fashion. So we're going to do, I'm going to take questions now, members. And please, members, give the page number when you pose the question. It makes it easier to answer. So I'm going to give over to the members for questions on governance, only governance, and then we will move forward. Member Leon Verwyk is first.
Thank you, Chair.
Just one moment. I just want to recognize the first three. Remember, we said three. Member Leon Verwyk, Member Mkontlo, and Member Masipa. That's three, and it's 2 questions per member. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chair. Page 86, relating to audit committee composition. I noticed there that we had 4 members whose term of office came to an end on the 31st of March 2025, leaving only 1 audit committee member there. My question just is, I think, from a point of continuation, I suppose over the years, what I've learned there is that one tries not to get the majority of your audit committee to that the terms end at the same time, that one rather staggers it out, that you've constantly got a level of experience and understanding of the system within the committee, and hopefully we will see an improvement there, that we can get back into that rotation. Thanks, Jay.
Member Nkodlo.
Thank you, Chair. My first question is on page 83 on fraud and corruption. I'm interested for the department just to explain to us. I think I see that there was a new case of 2024, which I'm assuming is, I'm not sure whether by the time this annual report was published, that case is closed or not. If they can just expatiate on that and give details of what happened there, and maybe just explain to us, when you speak about a zero tolerance anti-fraud and corruption environment, what exactly is that? If you can maybe just take us through that. And then on page 91, Chair, one, I think, can see that this section on BBBE has remained the same for, I think, the past couple of years now, where on this issue of developing and implementing a preferential procurement policy, there's a no in most of the departments in the province. I'm interested to understand that my understanding is that the Public Procurement Act of 2024 would have, amongst others, still require that all organs of state, also still are to implement the BBBE Act and develop their preferential procurement policies. So I'm not sure in the notes under the column discussion, because there it speaks about any new preferential procurement will be based on an executive policy directive and approved by cabinet. What does that mean? What are you saying? What are you saying there? Maybe you can explain, about this issue of preferential procurement. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Member Sipa.
Thank you, Chair. I've got only two questions, as you have asked that keep them to two questions. Chair, my question relates to page 82. I do note that point number 2 on the key emerging risks for the following financial year, there's a political, obviously, instability that is being noted there. So while one acknowledges political instability, does the minister, obviously we have had a discussion you might have followed earlier with the AG, and one of the issues was material irregularities. Do you think that issuing a debt certificate will assist in ensuring that political instability does not really end up affecting the running of the administration? While we acknowledge that there's going to be, coalition and political, challenges, but administration has to continue, running without really being affected by political instability. The second question is on point number 1. Sorry that I'm going in that order. You talk about the one of the risk being the inability for the department to deliver legislative mandates, and you talk about the increased mandate without accompanying resources. So I just want to understand what the increased mandate is and what it entails. Really, if maybe you can help the committee to understand. And obviously, what type of resources are we talking about? Are we talking financials and so forth? And obviously, what we know is that we're sitting with increased migration or population growth. That obviously we do really feel that is putting a burden on your department to deliver the services, especially at municipal level. I just want to get a feel if this is really relating to that as well. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you very much. Minister HOD, over to you.
Thank you, Chairperson, Honourable Chairperson. Just on the composition of the committee, so some of the members have reached the end of term, and I think the Chairperson sits there, and Mr. Andrew. So he has been part of the previous committee and has overtaken the chairmanship. And obviously, so that is a continuation. The department's responsible for that together with Henriette and Blanche. We will go through a recruitment and selection process. And the idea was that Andrew actually continues with the audit committee so that there is some form of continuation in it. So just on the fraud and corruption, I'm also going to ask just the CFO also to add. There is a case. So there were two cases. The one case was just in relation to official in relation to non-compliance in terms of a housing allowance. And that matter has been resolved. And the other one was a whistleblower indicating that a particular official have received donations, but that was established by the forensic services, and it was established that he received the donations in his private capacity. So in terms of the zero tolerance, we have both those cases were referred to the Provincial forensic services for investigation. I think within the department there's extensive awareness raising about the risks of fraud and corruption, sensitizing the officials about it. Many sessions with the staff online, and staff is welcome to attend it. I think the Director of Finance, Financial Administration also sends out via comms regular awareness raising notices and pamphlets to ensure that staff is aware of it and staff is aware of the consequences. So if cases do come up, is brought to our attention, obviously it's discussed and then it's referred to the Provincial Forensic Services for further investigation. I mean, we don't get involved in the detail of it, and they give us an independent report on that. CFO, I'm not sure whether you just want the triple BEE.
Thank you, Honourable Chair and members. With regard to the triple BEE, so the department does comply with the triple BEE and the preferential procurement related to the award of work or goods and services, whatever it is we undertake. The reason that it says no is because the Provincial Treasury hasn't finalised the triple BEE policy and the provincial stance on the implementation of the preferential procurement regulations for departments. So what the regulation actually requires is that departments need to be BEE accredited, which means we need to then go through an accreditation process in order for the department to get whether it is a level 1, 2, 3, or 4. And the provincial stance is that departments do not need to be accredited as BEE service providers because the departments don't provide services. But in terms of the regulations, we fully comply with BEE against all procurement that happens within the department. So there is no deviation from any preferential procurement regulation in terms of any money that's spent by the department.
Chairperson, Member Norkus, question also, the political instability is something that we work on, and it's a continuous process. And with we expect more coalitions, so that's a bigger threat to stability. We know that stability within a council, within a municipality, helps to settle the administration. As soon as you enter into an unstable environment, then people don't want to work in those kind of municipalities. We had this conversation earlier this morning. How do we attract people to come and work? It's more than just skills and money and all those kind of things. That's important. It's also a stable environment. So it's for us increasingly important to see how can we pack that, and within the new white paper, we all had our chance to also give comments to the national minister. How do you build a system that will hold irrespective of the political leadership? That's the question we're grappling with, and the checks and balances that you need to put in to secure stability so that you can protect the administration. One of the suggestions I made was to get the debate going. Must we not pay the internal audit function in municipalities from National Treasury, get them independent, so that they become the fallback for the administration? Because if the administration say no to politics, then they start to be worked out. That's the general sense, what's happening in municipalities. So if you can get an independent body inside that can take that, then that might be the answer or not. But we will enter that debate with the national minister. There's population growth and economic growth. It's two of the big issues within, I think, all our communities. We struggle with that. Now, your economic growth, it's national and internationally, the economy is struggling. More and more people sit without a job, speaking to poverty and poverty levels within, increasing people coming to the Western Cape for services and for work. And how do we deal with that? And we need to deal with it, otherwise it becomes an immigration debate. I personally believe it's not an immigration debate, it's a debate on the resources and on jobs. That's the core to that. If we can sort those two things out, nobody will talk about immigration. So on this department, obviously, shareholders, we play a huge role in the municipal space, Honourable Chair, through to the Honourable Member, and there's no quick answers to this. It's to build infrastructure, to maintain your current infrastructure, to see to it that your water is of a quality, and then add to this something that we start to play with, and I think it's going to become a huge debate. It's because it's all of our role in the political domain, government's domain, to see to it that people have a dignified life. And what does that mean? In my department, it speaks to water, where the Constitution says 6 kilolitres. The study with the university speaks to 10.5 kilolitres, and then they work on an average of 50 litres of water per person per day. Now, international norms is 201 litres, so it's not over It's a basket that's still be limited, but that's what you need. On electricity is going to be a big debate because where currently the Constitution speaks to 50 units, the study shows us 150 to 200 units of electricity. But that's only in sanitation and refuse removal. That's in my department. But in agriculture, it will be food. In other departments, in health, it will be how can we use this dignified life to see to it that people get their medical care, etc. I think that we need to turn this debate on its head. I think there's enough money in the system. I think that currently we just do the same thing over and over, and then at the end of the cycle, we catch people either with SAPs or in the social net, or whereas as if we give them the services now so that people can work themselves out of poverty and secure a dignified life, then we're actually going to save money by putting it in now. That's going to be a very interesting debate, I think. More and more it's coming on. But thank you, Chair.
Honourable Chairperson, can I perhaps just answer the question on the sort of the increased mandates and the ability of the department to deliver its legislative, incidental and implied mandates? So it's a combination of the three. So if you look at water as a national and a local government competency, but because this department works very closely with municipalities, there's an implied expectation that we also need to do the work around water, which we do. But obviously, the funding becomes the issue, the resources becomes the issue, because we're not getting funding for that particular. The same with the energy. We are required, because municipalities provide electricity to citizens, is an implied sort of mandate that we now need to do work with electricity, which we do. But it means that the resources don't necessarily flow, and we need to petition the provincial treasury on a continuous basis, annual basis, to say, but for us to be successful in the key deliverables in relation to water and energy, we need to have additional funding to do that. And then we've got sort of the expansion of the legislative mandate. We've got a staff regulations, which the national department has endorsed and published. Sandra is there. The requirement is that we need to implement it, but there's no additional resources, whether that's funds or so on. And we go do it, and we just ensure that by our intake engagements, we petition the provincial treasury for additional funding. The same with the DDM and the amendments to the Structures Act and the Systems Act. And the same with the, where's Albert, with the Khoisan legislation and so on. I've just spoken to the DDG Deporfa. Well, the DG Deporfa was responsible for traditional affairs on Friday evening. And they've made a presentation to the president around the costing of the Khoisan and so on. And his words to me is, the president told him, just go back and recalculate the cost for the implementation of the Khoi and San in the country. So hopefully when that costing is determined and so on, the province can also get additional funds and resources. But we do all this. The mandates increase, expand, and we're required to do it. And Honourable Chairperson, we do it to the best of our ability with the limited funding that we get from time to time from the provincial treasury.
Members, I'll ask for follow-ups on that before I go to new questions. Is there any follow-ups on this? I just, I'm going to give you now, Member Makontlo. I just want to ask, the Minister answered on the political instability. Minister mentioned that there must probably be more coalitions. So do you have a plan? How do you manage if you now have so many coalitions and nobody wants political instability? How do you work around that to make sure that the employees feels, listen, we're working in a stable environment? So because the department's role is to monitor, support, and to assist municipalities. So I mean, if we know there's going to be X amount of coalitions, then what is the department doing to ensure that there's a smooth transition? So, Member Makontlo, I'll give just a follow-up of Member Sipa's question, but Member Makontlo, over to you.
No, thanks, Chair. I also wanted to perhaps explore that point because I think even in the section on risk management, the point, or if one looks at page 82, maybe one would assume it's captured there under key emerging risks under point 1. But I think it is not pronounced, and I think as Minister has just explained, because this is a reality, And I mean, we are here, perhaps we'll have to look at the annual report of 2025-2026, a year before a local government election, which by virtue of understanding our environment, we normally know you see high levels of service delivery protest with an implication of infrastructure being burnt down and all of that. And it's something that one is always looking at the books because one is not finding them, because these are books for the public. Might not necessarily have the luxury of sitting in meetings of this nature. But to what Minister was raising about, the population growth, I think we've seen on the element of housing that we've seen that there is an increase of housing demand. I just want to understand from the Minister and perhaps with the department whether there is data on their side, particularly on the indigent grant, that actually indicates what the Minister was talking about as it relates to the demands for water, especially for indigent. Because I recall when we had National Treasury, presenting the DORA, I think a couple of months ago, and they didn't specify, so I'm not going to say it for this province, but they said in general, municipalities are not necessarily utilizing or spending on their indigent grants. And we asked them, and I would have thought by now would have received that data because one wanted to utilize that data to ask in this, which are those municipalities? Because it's one thing to talk about population growth. We need data to prove, as we demand more money because we've got people that do not afford. So we should be able to see that, in as far as the data is concerned, and maybe we're going to be looking at Mero as it's going to be presented. But I just want to know from the department, do you have that data? Do you collate from the municipalities, annually, of the indigent spend or people that are applying for indigents across the different municipalities, so that we also get to understand what is happening exactly to what Minister is raising about the pressures of the basic services that are required by the citizens. Thanks.
Minister?
Yeah, I think the data is available. There's various sources of data. First of all, the census, we all know it's a bit behind, but then we do update kind of studies. So the data is available. We know that the Western Cape over the last term, since now I must get my dates right, population growth is around about 20%. It's problematic. It places huge burden on everybody. But I think what's more important, and that's also between us and Treasury, Honourable Member, through you through the chair to you. Treasury has alerted us that National Treasury wants to dig into the equitable share funding within municipal space, and it's very much to do with the indigent registers. Because they pay out X amount, but there's only Y amount on registers, and they want to see to it that works out. I think my gut is that we're spending the money, we don't report always on the money. And in the municipal space, it's going to be important, especially when we debate the dignity basket kind of thing, that we understand the difference between the credit control policy, that's a policy that forces those who can pay to pay, and then the equitable share policy to help the people who don't have money so that they can live a dignified life. So but it's between Treasury. We wait now for Treasury. They drive it from a national level to see to it that we get our indigent registers up and running correctly. And then also the monitoring of those registers. And I think they're going to, my gut tells me that we're also going to talk to councillors to start to monitor the indigent registers within their wards. Because if somebody gets a job, they must be removed off that register and go onto another system. I think on the risk side, Honourable Chair, there's another risk, and that's the timing of the election. It's just something I play around with because the election can happen 1st of November to the 30th of January. That's the time frame in which. Now remember, November it's matric exams, so matric exams end around about 25th, 26th of November. Now, if you work on Wednesdays, it's the 4th, the 11th, the 18th, and then 25th of November can be a date, or the week after, 2nd of December or 9th of December, and then we're getting now a bit tough, and then we can jump to January. Now, I don't know, but for me, there's not a good date in that framework. So people will go on holidays, and people are in a festive mood. So I think that's a risk, because at the end of the day, you need to get as many people to take up their votes to vote. Because remember, this is a local government election, meaning there where you register, there you must vote. And we know our matriculants, they go off, if they finish their exam, they go on road shows, road trips, etc. So that's also a risk. The smooth transition, maybe the HOD and the department can answer what we put in place to have like a local government desk where municipalities can call us and speak to us. But I think we all know that we're going to sit with more coalitions, but we cannot preempt these. And we do training with various institutions from SALGA to Hans Seidel Foundation, ourselves, etc. And it's going to speak very much to the maturity and quality of our councillors that we get voted in. And because there's also coalitions that work. I said it this morning, I'm more worried about the king-making politics, where one council or two councils capture a council. That's, I think, it's what's going to be our problem to deal with. But then there's a legal framework, and we just need to hammer on the legal framework and manage the councils through that. HOD, can I?
Thank you, Minister, and thank you, Honourable Chairperson. So, I mean, some time ago, we had in the room some of the local government experts as well as academia to talk about what's happening in the local environment. And their predictions are, and it's just predictions and projections, that over 26, there would most probably be more coalition governments in municipalities. It's just a prediction, but I think we need to take note of that and how do we prepare the department for that. With the planning for the local government elections, so we have started talking about the planning for the local government elections. It requires a different rhythm in the department because our observation is normally a year before the local government elections. You can see there's some kind of instability in the municipalities, and that extends beyond a year because the contracts of senior managers and municipal managers and come to an end 1 year after the election, and then there's getting new people in and so on, and that also creates additional instability. So we plan and we put initiatives in place, and we also approach the provincial treasury to help us with additional funding so that we can ensure that the transition is smooth from the one to the other. Obviously, councillors can also get a once-off payment, gratuity payment, those are not coming back and so on. So, man, that's in the planning, and as the minister has indicated, so on the coalition governments, I mean, we've given input in the white paper. The National Department is busy with a framework for coalitions, and we are saying that framework must be completed before the local government elections. So where subsequent to the local government elections in 2026, if there are parties that wants to work together, that they are guided by a framework that's endorsed by the national government, but also by provinces. And that is like an immediate deliverable that we said, input to the white paper that must happen. And yes, Honourable Chairperson, we collect data in relation to the indigents in the province. And there is a regular assessment about the thresholds and the criteria around incidents in the province and in municipalities. What kind of criteria is being applied? Thanks.
Thank you, members. Is there any questions on governance? Can we move on? Member Stoffels?
Thank you, Chairperson. And once again, good afternoon
MSC and also HOD and its team. Chair, mine is on the page 83, fraud and corruption. Then in the middle of the page, it reads like the following. The department has an approved fraud and corruption prevention plan. And now I will take that statement to the 30 municipalities. My question is, does the 30 municipalities have a corruption and fraud prevention plan? And also, even in the past years, the department has achieving this indicator. So the follow-up question of subsequent to that, how does the department explain allegations of fraud and corruption that get reported in the media, such as the City of Cape Town with the 1.6 million and the George collapse buildings and so forth? So can I just be clarified on that? Thanks, Chair.
Your HOD Minister.
So, Honourable Chairperson, thanks for the question. That's a twofold response, and I think first I'm going to ask Sandra just to explain about the fraud and corruption plans within municipalities, and I'm not sure Gary and Kamal, and they can then also talk about the process in the event that is fraud and corruption that is brought either to the attention of the minister, but also to the attention of the department and how that is being dealt with. And I take note that the honourable member has made reference to the City of Cape Town, the 1.6 billion. Thanks.
So HOD, I'm going to just hand over to Kamal because he deals with the fraud and corruption, and Gary can deal with the one that you've requested.
Thanks, Chair. Just on the question of the fraud corruption committees, the anti-fraud corruption plans that municipalities have. So on a quarterly basis, we monitor the fraud corruption measures that municipalities have as well. As part of the indicator in the APP, as the honourable members indicated as well, that's a prescribed sector indicator. So we also obviously will monitor municipalities in order to ascertain whether those fraud corruption committees are operable and are functional as well. So all the municipalities have those plans as well. I think with regard to the question pertaining to allegations of fraud and corruption that come up, maybe let me refer the question to Gary. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you, member, for the question. If I understand the question correctly, having a fraud and corruption prevention plan itself won't necessarily prevent all forms of fraud and corruption. So you still would have fraud and corruption and those allegations coming forward, and both being received internally within the municipalities and being investigated by the municipalities themselves in accordance with their own constitutional and legislative mandate, as well as when those allegations are reported to the provincial minister and investigated by the province as well. So, yeah, I mean, the fact that there is a fraud and prevention plan itself won't necessarily prevent all cases of fraud. Thank you.
Member Pietrus, I see your hand is up. I didn't see your hand. Member Pietrus? Member Stoffels, you just put your mic off. Just put your mic. Are you covered, Member Pietrus?
Nearly covered, Chairperson. It's only on response on the minister.
Go ahead.
Yes, thank you, Chair. I just want to know from the minister, all municipalities that receive the indigent funding, are they using that funds only for the purposes of to assist the people who are in need of indigent assistance and not for other purposes?
Thank you, Minister.
Oh, Chairperson, as far as we know, they use it to relieve poverty and for people on the indigent register. But as I mentioned, there will be a study to pull that out, and then we will get clarity on that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Members, we're going to move to page 131, 132. That's PFMA compliance. It's 131 to 138. Members, please quote the page number when you ask the question. Members, over to you. Member Nkonklo, over to you.
Chair, I just want to get clarity. On page 137. On procurement by other means, if the department would just give us some explanation about the two limited bidding, what would have been the rationale for this? To have to undertake a limited bid for both of those projects. And then on the contract expansions, I'm trying to understand in the Isipani security, it says original contract value 457, and the contract was extended. And then it still says 457. I'm not sure whether it means the contract got extended at no cost, or what does it mean? Because I see the other one, I think there's a 10,000, which is the value of the expansion. So if maybe you can just explain that for me. Thank you.
Any other members with questions? No other questions? HOD, over to you.
Thank you so much. So procurement by other means, the reason that we went that route is when we advertised. So when we advertised is that better, Chief? So when we advertised the services through the open procurement process on EPS, we didn't get any responses. So Esri, as an example, with regard to software, are the sole service provider to be able to give us the licenses in order for us to use. So we use a deviation, which is a single source deviation that goes through our bid committees and to the HOD in order for it to be approved. The same with the training service provider. So that the training service provider did go through EPS, I think one or maybe two times. And when we did not get any responsive bids, then we did a deviation to the service, to the HOD to appoint a specific service provider that could then comply with the requirements related to the service or the training that was required. Because there's a spec, and then the non-adherence to the spec renders the compliance renders it non-compliant. And so we can't continue with the appointment of that service provider. So as a result, we went through a deviation to the HOD. Regarding Isipani, that was just a contract extension. So there was no change in the amount. It would have, as an example, would have been a 3-month contract, and something would have happened to have changed it to 4 months or 5 months or whatever it is, but the contract value was the same. With regard to the aerial firefighting, Kushugu, that was a contract expansion, and that was a 10 million rand expansion. So we go out on tender on a 3-yearly basis to appoint a team or a service provider to render the aerial firefighting support for the fire season, which is the helicopters. When we get into December, January, February, and March, we got an open tender process, and we appoint the service provider that then meets the requirements related to whatever it is the spec is. In this instance, what had happened was when the HOD signed off the contract, he signed off the contract for just the standby fees. And the flying hours, which is the 10 million rand, was not included in the contract. So we needed to do a contract expansion in order to do it. But when the advert was adjudicated, or when the spec was adjudicated and the bid was adjudicated, it included the variability of the flying hours. The HOD just took a cautious approach at the point when he was signing off the bid file in order for us to issue the order number based on the budget that was available at the point in time. And the Treasury then subsequently increased the budget in order for us to be able to expand the contract to include the flying hours. Or what would eventually happen is we would pay the standby fees for this year or for last year, and we wouldn't then be able to pay for that hour flying time of when the fire gets reported to the disaster management center. So Colin had explained earlier that in the earlier session that if a fire breaks out in a municipality and within 10 minutes they advise the disaster management center, they can then dispatch helicopters or aerial support for the first hour, which the department pays for. So in the absence of that expansion, we wouldn't be able to pay for those flying hours, and that's the reason. But it is within budget, it's within regulation, and the respective stakeholders have been advised in terms of it. But there was no deviation related to the way in which the award had happened, and the adjudication of that award did include the variability of the flying hours as well.
Member Mkontla?
You're going to have to take it very slow. Né? Be elementary when you explain so that one gets to understand. Né? No technical jargon. Né? Be as simple as you can. There is a tender. There is a terms of reference or scope of that tender. It went out. The whole process is concluded. In the conclusion of the tender, whoever that's doing the bid committee would have then made a recommendation for that particular service that was encompassed, which includes the flying hours you're talking about. Then when it gets to the HOD takes a cautious, that's the term you use. What is that? From where would that be coming from? Because my assumption is that from the bid committee and its recommendation, it would have done that, and then through the CFO to the HOD, where does the caution comes in, not to include something that is already in the bid document. So that's why I'm saying take it very slow so that I don't misread in what you are saying. Né? So if you can explain that. The second point is that I'm trying to understand in the limited bidding. In the limited bidding, what you are explaining is that you've gone out on the open process and then you could not get the requisite service providers or nobody responded, I'm assuming. So where did you get these two that you then later on decide to then go to AI training services and SRE software, given the fact that you would not have any responding? So what becomes the basis of you doing that for those specific service providers? So slowly, no technical jargon, simplicity, speak as if you're speaking to somebody on the street. Né?
Member Mkontla, speak through the chair. Please speak through the chair. It's not a dialogue. So just
Speaking to the chair.
Thank you. Just a question on 136. It's still, I see there is the last other material losses written off. There was quite a reduction in GG vehicle damage and theft, but it was probably still 52. It was probably still a lot. So if just explain on, there is a reduction, but there's still the GG vehicle damage and the theft of damage to equipment. Thank you. Hey, let's work through the HOD and then the HOD can direct, because then we don't have any dialogues going. HOD?
Okay, thanks, Honorable Chairperson, and thank you for the questions. Thanks.
So maybe let me start with the easiest one first. It's clutch damage and a jack and a spanner and a bumper that was crushed. So that's the extent of it. If we haven't already finalized it, we would send it to the legal services for an opinion and then establish whether there's a liability issue and recover the money. So that would only get reported now in the next annual financial statement. Okay, so related to how it is we would get AI training services and ESRI, the way in which the Provincial Treasury has set up the procurement system, which is EPS, the electronic procurement system, is that service providers have to be registered on it. If they're not registered on it, then when we put the terms of reference onto the EPS system, they won't get it, which is the case that would have happened in AI training services. So they either would have been suspended or not registered on EPS. As a result, they wouldn't have gotten the spec, as it were. And then if they're not registered, then whoever it is, our line function that would have wanted it would have said, I know that this company has that information. Can we then use them? And then we'd get a quotation from them, and that's how it would be. In the case of Esri, because they are the only service provider that provides it, and they're not registered, we didn't test the market on that one, because we know that from the industry requirements from CEI, that it's the only service provider that does that. With regard to the caution, I think the HD is going to have to speak to this one on his own. But from my understanding is that the budget at the point in time was uncertain because the allocation letters for the outer years were not finalized. And so as a result, that was the caution. But the bid committee did recommend including the variability, and I wrote my notes to include the variability as well. But the HOD is able to exercise discretion and decision making, and I can't speak for the way in which the decision unfolded, so I'll refer that one back to the HOD to explain.
Dear, over to you.
Honorable Chairperson, let me perhaps recollect. So the tender goes out and the tender is awarded. But then in the agreement, instead of putting the awarded amount, I think let's speak under correction, we will find out the facts. But then we say there's a budgeted amount. So in my view, the budgeted amount in the department for that specific service has nothing to do with the service provider. And that's why I'm not going to conclude an agreement based on what is budgeted in the department. I'm going to conclude an agreement with the service provider based on the tender price. So if he has said, listen, this is a tender price, and then we will conclude on that. And then the agreement is concluded on that. And obviously, as the CFO said, it's a 3-year contract, and then there are variations. And then obviously there is, given the fact that there's a 3-year contract and of the price differences year on year, there is an expansion of the agreement. But I can't commit the department to a budgeted amount while the tender price is different. So, I mean, as a 3-year contract, and Colin can also explain, the prices do escalate year on year. Thanks, Chairperson. But if the committee wants, we can actually put some to draw some detail.
Thank you, HOD. Is there any other question? Member Nkondo?
Would appreciate the detail of that tender, including the two where you say not as the other one, the limited bidding, and how that specific, what is this? AI training service, who recommended that? Thanks.
We've got that down, so we'll got that down. We're going to move to financial information 140 to 203. If I can also tell the officials, when you speak through the chair. CFO, if you speak through the chair. That's the only way I can protect you. Please, that's the only way you can do it, eh? So even if you answer, speak through the chair. Okay. Right, let's go to financial information 140 to 203. Members, questions? That's Member Masipa, Member Nkontlo, Member Van Wyk, in that order. Member Masipa, over to you.
Thank you, Chairperson. Through you, please protect me as well. Chairperson, I'm on page 142. Yeah, I just want to get clarity with regards to investment in infrastructure. And obviously, there's already 3 billion that has been raised for water and waste water projects. In terms of the serviceability of this debt, is it at municipal level, user charge, or is it at provincial level? I just want to get the answer on that one, or just to be clarified. The last one really is a compliment, not necessarily really a question, Chair. The Shared Services Summit, I see it as really an important intervention to ensure that, the challenges that obviously the municipalities face with is able to deal with using the shared services as such. So it's really, I just want to commend the department or the local government for really looking at that as a means of really supporting municipalities. It's on one page, on 143. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you, Member Nkontlo.
Through you, Chairperson. And I'm going to look at you and I'm not going to look at the department so that I don't get them into trouble. Yes, indeed. On page 158, Chair, can we just get an explanation about this underspending on COE under administration and also under the local governance program? Maybe just to explain to us which posts are these, what happened, and how many are they. The second one, Chair, is on this energy resilience fund. It is said there, I think under 158, that also the savings were on the earmarked funding allocated to appoint critical skills to support the energy fund. Maybe I'm just interested to understand, what does this mean? Does it mean there were people that were supposed to be employed, and what is happening with this program within the department? That's just my second question for now.
Thank you. Member Van Wyk.
Thanks, Chair. I guess you'll try and protect me as well. I'm just referring to 142, 143, and I think under 11, the service delivery environment, the department certainly have a whole list of very laudable projects that they are busy working on. I sort of referred in briefly to municipal governance, the investment in infrastructure, the funding mechanism, and then shared services. And I think all of that can be of great benefit to the municipalities. The question that I have, however, is how do we get the maximum cooperation out of municipalities to make all of these projects work as effectively as they can do? The chair of the audit committee earlier had spoken about taking horses to water and persuading them to drink the water. And this is very much, I think, the challenge that the department also has with the municipalities to get everybody to work together, because the difficulty with aging infrastructure is we know it's getting older and older, and if you don't have the correct level of maturity within the municipalities for them to make the decisions that need to take place to get that investment taking place is going to be difficult. And so I'm just wondering to what extent there is some mechanism that can be put in place to get that greater level of cooperation.
Thank you very much. I'm just going to refer to, we've got a briefing note from the Auditor General, and the briefing note is just key recommendations that they made, and I'm just going to read it briefly. The accounting officer, supported by management officials within the department, should request quarterly formal guidance from the Provincial Accountant General on the changes to the MCS for implementation on the 31st of March. And there's another recommendation: the accounting officer, supported by the management officials and the department, should initiate the implementation of soliciting the necessary guidance from the National Department of Cooperative Governance and Traditional to ensure inclusion of the relevant indicators in the annual performance plan. And then the accounting office supported by management should monitor, follow up on the implementation of audit action plans of Kannaland, Laingsburg, Beaufort West, and Prince Albert. They also have here Theewaterskloof, Cederburg, Central Karoo, and the list goes on. The question that we ask, there's another one, but the question that we ask to the Auditor General, it was basically as recommendations. They can't instruct, but they can give recommendations in order that we have better service delivery. So just to understand, I mean, the departments there to support, and then the Auditor General comes and gives certain recommendations. And so that discussion was probably with the accounting officer. And, so the Auditor General don't make recommendations because for the sake of it. They see there's certain problems, and in our document, they mentioned the municipalities, Kannaland Municipality, Beaufort West Municipality, Laingsburg Municipality, and it gives partial progress, but not meaningful, impactful. I don't want to go into detail because I don't know if you have your hands on this document, Minister, or saw the document, but those discussions most probably happened with the Auditor General, and maybe you can just elaborate on that. I think that is, I can go on, but I'm going to stop there because I think that was our core thinking, speaking to the Auditor General. So I just thought I'll throw that in now. HOD?
Chairperson, let me attempt to provide a response to that, and I think the CFO is welcome to also come in. So, I mean, that was based on last year's audit outcomes that the Auditor General has actually written to us and say these are recommendations and so on. I have disposed with that and have issued the Auditor General a response. We are not reluctant to do that. In actual fact, we then told the Auditor General what is it that we are doing about that. And I've just asked in that letter that we have a discussion around this so that it's understood. In most of that, if not all, the department is currently doing something about it. Whether that's on the MCS or whether that's on the what is this, a WCD4. We have already implemented some of the stuff. So just in relation to the action audit plan, so there's coordinating ministries. It's between ourselves, the provincial treasury, the department of the premier, as well as the Department of Local Government, and particularly in relation to the action audit plans. We work in support of the Treasury. The Treasury is taking the lead. And I think we need to explain to the Auditor General, while we work in support, we don't necessarily take the lead, that we as a department be kept responsible. But given the work that we do in terms of the joint working group, and that's where the senior managers between ourselves, provincial treasury, and environmental affairs and development planning working together to align our support and assistance to municipalities. So there's no overlap or duplication, but there's also no gaps. So and that's a work that comes in here. So our understanding, and there's also an agreement between ourselves and the provincial treasury that they take the lead on the finances. We work in support of that. And we've done all the time that. In relation to professionalization, we understand that the National Department has put in a APP deliverable objective around professionalization. We do much more in relation to professionalization in that. So I think if my understanding is correct, and that's why I've asked for a discussion with the Auditor General, is that the Auditor General wants us now to put the professionalization indicator now into the APP, this year's APP, before the end of the financial year and so on. And I mean, I've asked the Auditor General, can we talk about this? We're not saying we're not amenable to do it, but I think there must be a improved understanding what is the expectation. And for that reason, we have disposed a letter to the Auditor General. I'm not sure, CFO, whether you want to add.
Sorry, Chair. I was just checking with the HOD if I can answer the rest of the questions. So the COE on Program 1 and Program 2, the detail of it is on page 99. If you look at the program, the number of active posts, the posts that are filled, it will tell you the number of posts. If you want any more of the detail, the HOD is going to need to ask CRU to provide it to you. We don't have the detail. Regarding the COE on the energy and what is critical, so the department has a critical vacancy occupation, and that table is at the bottom of page 99. But energy and the earmarked energy resilience projects are not included in this. It was added on as an extra. And then the provincial treasury gave us funding related purely to the capacity on energy. And so the reason that that money was not spent is because the engineering section and infrastructure couldn't attract the relevant skills, because this money is actually for contract appointments and not permanent appointments. So earlier in the morning session, Marius had indicated that it's virtually impossible for him to be able to attract the right people to stay on, because the contracts are for a period and people leave for lesser salaries, for permanent appointments. He has a whole host of reasons why the posts have not been filled. If you need more of the detail, Marius can then provide it to you, but that's effectively what it is that resulted in the underspending on the energy side. Thank you, Chair.
Honorable Chairperson, can I ask Marius maybe to on the 3 billion, Marius, if you wish, please?
Honorable Chair, in terms of the investment in the CITIF program, the DFIs, the Swiss and the Danish, they provide free project prep funding that is then used to take the project from feasibility to bankability. The funding from these DFIs are also used to pay for the operational cost of the PMU. In the case of Green Cape, that was our first service provider that got the funding from the Swiss and the Danish. In terms of phase 3, we've appointed another service provider that is looking, like we've discussed this morning, wider to expand it to other municipalities as well. There we are providing 10 million rand towards the operationalization of the work that they've got to do. And in turn there we get 1.7 billion rand. And this is just the start. So they are continuously identifying more and more projects. So at the moment, we're standing at 1.7 billion, but by the end of the contract, we would be by far more than that. So value for money is, it's self-explanatory.
Thank you. Members, I want to ask you quick. I'm just going to throw this call to action quickly. This directs to the Minister. It says here, the MEC should ensure continuous intergovernmental engagements between the Department of the Premier, Provincial Treasury and local government to intensify the interventions currently in place for the high-risk municipalities to ensure the effectiveness of the support and that the desired intervention yield the required output. And then it says the MEC should oversee the solicit feedback from the accounting officer on the progress to implement recommendation, commitments made to ensure desired positive outcomes are desired. And then it says the standing committee scopus should exercise continued oversight of the MEC and the department through its mandate. Other questions? Member Nkondlo, Member Sipa, and then Member Stoffels. I'll take 3.
Chair, maybe as a follow-up on the COE or vacancy question, I'm not sure whether I'm reading properly on that page 99 I was referred to. That, yeah, on the blue book. Yeah, I was referred to page 99 just to understand where. So I'm saying I'm not sure if I'm correct. If I read what is in, I think in table 3.2.1, which would mean in layman's terms, it's program 2 in the main where there are about 30, am I correct, vacancies. And this is very concerning. And I would be interested, perhaps, Chair, to understand in the 6 sub-programs of program 2, where exactly are these positions? If we can get the list of those by names, how long have they been open and the reasons why they're still open? And then I think that was just my concern around the issue of COE, because the issue of COE is always a tricky balance, Chair, to talk about, underspending on COE, pressures of an increasing population which demands more hands, and then you are not spending money to appoint people. So I think it's important from where one is sitting to just get a clarity from the department what would be the cause behind this, especially on a program that is important to the department. But I want to go to also the internal audit, Chair, on what was raised during the engagement, because of the comments, and I wanted to speak on the issue of the infrastructure. On the comments from the internal audit, one of the things that they mentioned is that on the municipal infrastructure, it was identified that the department lacks a comprehensive overarching guideline to support municipalities in managing infrastructure across the full asset life cycle. They make recommendations. What I'm interested to know, because I'm assuming that this report is with you, they include the issue of the quarterly and biannual infrastructure TORs. So I'm trying to understand if these matters are being attended to, because one would be looking at these in the next audit. So I'm asking that question because we did ask the internal audit, and I'm just asking the department now that they are here, that what was picked up by the internal audit in their engagements with the department, has the department included that in their action plans, and are these matters being attended to? Thanks, Chair.
Thank you, Member Masipa.
Thank you, Chair. Water is source of life, and through you, I do recognize that the pre-feasibility is obviously underway, and thank you very much. But I think just to get a feel as to, in terms of the timelines, what are we looking at? And obviously, you can't talk.
Member of the page, just give us the page.
Sorry,
yeah.
page 143.
143.
It's just a follow-up, yeah. Yeah, I think the point I was making is that timelines, and obviously, key is the ability to service the debt, whether, the debt is going to be at municipal level, if those predetermination has been made, or is it going to be at provincial level? That was really the question.
Member Stoffels?
Thank you, Chairperson. Chair, mine is on 142. The last bullet, number 11, service delivery environment. Chair, my question referred to these municipalities that is struggling. Now, on the other hand, you hear these municipalities doesn't cooperate, these municipalities doesn't do what they're supposed to do. But in the meantime, there is this process that is being led by the province in terms of supporting these municipalities. Now, I'm just putting these two together and ask myself, if these municipalities reporting here in this house whatever platform. This, in the report, you could hear there's no progress. And you read on this statement here, the last statement within the same page, although governance challenges persist in some municipalities, there is clear evidence of positive outcomes. And that outcome streamlined from the department's extensive guidance and support. Now, what are we saying to each other? The department should be clear to us. I think what will be proper for the department, since there is an intervention on these municipalities, the department should come with a clear report where they indicate these municipalities, we have taken them from grade this to grade this. And these municipalities doesn't cooperate in this section, they don't cooperate. This section, there's improvement. There's no clear report from these municipalities. We just hear that these municipalities doesn't function the way they support and so the way they're supposed to function, and they don't carry out the mandate they're supposed to carry out. So I think whether that report must come to the Committee of Local Government, but there should be a progress report around these issues. And we should hold then that specific municipalities accountable for the expenses of that intervention plan. I thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to hand over to the HOD.
So, Honourable Chairperson, thank you very much. I think the call to action, I mean, perhaps the Minister can do a response. I can also add. And then just on the COE, we will be glad to give you the breakdown on the COE and the underspending in relation to the six sub-programs of Program 2 and also the detail. Internal audit, Honourable Chairperson, and the infrastructure life cycle. I think it has been pulled out of the report. The report is September 2024. So we got a report. There's about 16 actions that need to be implemented. So we got the report, and those that are due. And here's the report, Chairperson. It is so those 4 actions that have been assessed on the review by the internal audit have been found to be implemented. So we are dealing with it and responding to it and giving effect to the recommendations of the internal audit in that report. But it also requires that we need to work with the Provincial Treasury, particularly in relation to the IDMS. And so we are collaborating with the Provincial Treasury, Sandra and Maris, as well as myself, to ensure that we give effect to the actions that were highlighted in that. So I can assure the committee here that we are attending to it. Maris, I'm not sure whether you want to then respond to page 143, just the service debt, the water, and I think just to give an indication who will pick up that. It's not necessarily the province. I think it will be municipalities. And then the last question is around the service delivery environment, the reports that the honourable member has spoken about and the progress. And I think Sandra perhaps just also give indication the reports that we do take to Cabinet via our and our own assessment, the monitoring that we do of municipalities and how we table that in the Cabinet. And also the one-pager to determine the progress of that municipalities do make in relation to the various key areas. Perhaps, Minister.
On the call of action, we will adhere to it. We work very closely with the Auditor General, myself, the Premier, and Minister Baartman, sit with them, and obviously we debate these issues, we discuss it, and where we need to step up, we listen. But yeah.
Okay, Honourable Chair. I just want to actually, with your permission, just want to maybe just add to the question we had in terms of the findings of the internal auditors in terms of the structured way in which we support municipalities over the life cycle. So notwithstanding the fact that we will be reporting per the deadlines, and that is only by 31 December. So we still have time for that, and we're busy with that. Notwithstanding that, the IDMS system is a national treasury system that has been adopted by the Western Cape government. So everything that we do in South Africa, as well as in the Western Cape government, that is done in terms of that system. So everything that we've done for the last 20, 30, 40 years is in line with that system. Just when it comes to the asset management component, National Treasury must still develop the standards. So they have not developed the standards. We're waiting for those standards. But in the interim, as HOD indicated, we are working with National Treasury because this is Provincial Treasury, a combined function between ourselves and them to develop an asset management framework that is going to fill that gap between what the standards of National Treasury must develop and that is required on a technical basis to support municipalities in asset management at a technical level to improve that sufficient budget is allocated to maintenance. When it comes to the question, and Chair, I must apologize that I didn't understand the question and answered the first time right. For Swartland and Overstrand municipalities, we will be ready to go out on the market by the second quarter of 2026, and for Saldanha Bay in the first quarter of 2026. And the debt there is all for the municipalities. It's not for the Western Cape government.
The Honourable Member, in terms of, sorry, Honourable Chair, through you. Sorry, I'm just used to talking directly, sorry. We have a monitoring system in place. Obviously, on a quarterly basis, we collect information based on specific pillars that the whole department is doing work across. But in terms of municipalities that are doing well, we are responsible in terms of the constitution for all 30 municipalities in the province. Obviously, there are some that are stronger than others, and we're trying to see whether we can't work with, for example, the city and even the district municipalities to further support our local municipalities. At the end of the day, we know exactly which of our, and we normally have about 7 or 8 municipalities at risk that we've consistent monitoring support plans in place for. And we work with all our departments across the province to support them. At the end of the day, it is incumbent on a municipal manager and his executive team to want to work with you if you want things to move. And this is a lesson we've learned. If the municipal manager doesn't champion municipal support, then it is very difficult for a province to really move that municipality forward. And I can attest that, for example, in some of our municipalities where we've had quite a few MMs coming and going, we've done orientation sessions with each new MM that's been appointed to see if we can't get them to buy into it. If you don't want to, you don't want to. We do try. We continue with ad hoc, and that's why we've got transversal training programs, which means we open training for every single municipality in the province, and then they make the decision whether they'll attend or not.
Members? Member Nkontlo and then Member Stoffels. Member Nkontlo.
A new question, Chair. On page 158, in the book, on the traditional institutional management, I see the department had to return about 14 million, if I'm reading correctly. And they say here this is related to savings or to the delays with recruiting additional capacity that is supposed to provide traditional councils, support to traditional councils. Can they explain what is the delay? And actually, who is in this function doing what? The second one, Chair, in page 174, I think they've explained there, particularly on this advertising and consultants. Maybe they can just give context, of explaining how a budget of advertising can actually shoot up from 1.8 to 4.1 from 2023 to 2024. What was this thing that you were advertising this much in this department? But also this, because I'm not sure whether what they've written, what is explained there, Chair, on the consultants is what is reflected on page 127 under consultants, because there is something that one just does not understand here, where you've got one particular consultant or service provider that would have been implementing so many projects. If you calculate, I think this JG Africa, maybe you can provide context so that we can understand of this particular consultant of about 36 projects, if my maths lit serves me well. So is that the explanation? And maybe provide that context so that we understand what would have been the need of such a service, particularly on this one service provider amongst others. Thank you, Chair.
And the Stoffels?
Thank you, Chairperson. Chairperson, I'm struggling to absorb the answer from the monitoring and support department towards these municipalities. Chairperson, there's no way people cannot be held accountable for their actions. Here we are sitting with municipalities that is costing communities to suffer through service delivery. Problems is by being identified. The province have taken a decision to assist. The province had the responsibility for monitoring and support. Now, if the same province is telling us now today that they engage municipal managers, and if municipal managers don't want to comply, that's it. It doesn't work like that. Me, I cannot take that attitude because I've got a responsibility towards the citizens of the Western Cape. So in terms of the support and monitoring to that specific municipalities, something very interesting happened last month through the Department of Finance, through you, Chair. The MEC have invited all the big municipalities, including the metros. They were sitting there. They came to this house to register their challenges. Why that municipalities cannot be called to the same house and tell us why they don't want to cooperate? Because it's not about them. It's about the citizens of the Western Cape, that we've got a responsibility towards them. So we want to know what is the progress on that municipalities after the intervention of the support and monitoring. Now, if we don't have that report, we can still allow the department to give us that, whether it's in writing or to come and present to the different committees. But we must have a progress report on these municipalities, because there is municipalities that is under financial recovery plan and it has been assisted now for a very long time, and we didn't receive any report about that. The only thing that we receive, these municipalities don't want to cooperate. It doesn't work like that. So through you, Chair, I would really appeal to the department to submit that necessary information to the various committees, not even today. If we don't have it, we don't have it, we can submit it at a later stage. Thanks, Chair.
Okay, if I can just add to maybe just I'm just going to read one. Kanala Municipality Status Support Plan came to effect January 2023. Partial progress, but not meaningfully impactful. That is according to the briefing note by the Auditor General. And they also then highlight Beaufort West and Laingsburg. And Laingsburg is also no meaningful impact noted. Beaufort West says ongoing but constrained. I think that is what member. So we got it in our briefing notes from the Auditor General. Just maybe question is the member Kodlo spoke about advertising costs on 174. How do the department determine? So I see various campaigns such as water use, anti-vandalism, educational awareness. How does the department decide where to go? Is it assisting municipalities, or how do you get to? Because surely you must roll this out somewhere, and how do you determine where to roll this out? And then maybe just the other question here on page 175 at the bottom, other includes photocopies, printing, binding, 5-year strategic plan, annual report, and municipal charters to know your ward committee. Maybe just elaborate on that. Thank you. HOD.
Chairperson, thank you very much, Honourable Chairperson. So just on the question of the Honourable Member Nkondlo in terms of 154, the 14 million was the underspending on the entire budget of the department. The detail is available, but I can also ask the CFO maybe to say how the 14 million is made up. Large part of that is for the video hall in the disaster management center, but we can provide that detail. So that 14 million does not relate to the traditional institutional management or the Koi and Son. That limited amount there is about 798,000 vis-a-vis the 422,000 the actual expenditure. So there was a saving of 376,000. But Honourable Chairperson, with your acquiescence, I can ask Albert to explain that. Then just on the Honourable Members' questions, Stoffels on the support and so on, we can make the reports available, particularly where we have the financial recovery plan currently in Kannaland as well as Theewaterskloof, Beaufort West, and I think there's another municipality. Laingsburg. So we can make it available and the progress. I've said the Auditor General is not auditing us in terms of our own performance in municipalities. The Auditor General is now also auditing us against the performance of municipalities, or if municipalities do not do what they're supposed to do. So we work very closely with the National Treasury and the Provincial Treasury on the financial recovery plans. But we can give the response, Honourable Chairperson, if it carries away your approval, in relation to each report, but also in relation to our support plans, because we also have support plans almost for each and every municipality, and then can give you feedback in terms of the key components, whether that's finance, service delivery, institutional capacity, and so on. What is the state where they were and where they are now? So if you can agree to that, we can give you that detail. And how we support municipalities. I think initially just with the financial recovery plan, and this is maybe what Sandra is referring to, Kannaland was rejecting the support by the province, by the National Treasury and Cocter and so on. They said, no, they don't want to do the financial recovery plan. But through persuasion, they have then accepted and they acknowledged that they require assistance. And for that reason, we then proceeded with the financial recovery plan. But in relation to other municipalities in the province, if we come and we support and sit down with them, they take our support and they take our assistance. We only monitor it very closely to see that the work that we are doing, whether that's additional resources, is actually applied and used for the intended purpose which it was actually offered. But we can make that available, Chairperson. And just on the question of the Auditor General, Chairperson, if you could perhaps just remind me, you said January 2023.
Kalaland municipality. So they just like they said the support plan came into effect January 2023, and then they say partial progress, but not meaningfully impactful. And then they give other stuff, the observations they had.
So
the same. Member from me.
Chair, I'm just wondering, we putting the department on the spot now on a document that they've not fully studied yet. Maybe we should give them the opportunity to study that AG report that they have, and then come back to us with, give us a more meaningful discussion on it at a future stage.
I hear what you're saying, member, but I think this discussion is already taking place because this was a support plan since January 2023. So the department should be aware of the document, should be. But we can ask for further information if the HOD is not aware of this. But I'm sure HOD is aware of this. HOD?
Listen, Honourable Chairperson, can I just perhaps just respond to that? So, Kanaland is also one of the beneficiaries for the ESCOM right of debt. And there are strict conditions around that. And Kanaland has actually defaulted on the conditions, which implies ourselves, the Provincial Treasury and the National Treasury, must do work to say, if you're not going to comply with these conditions, your future debt is not going to be written off. So we are doing work in terms of the financial recovery plan. I want to suggest this person, Honourable Chairperson, in the past, the Standing Committee on Local Government, I can't remember whether it's Scoper or has actually subpoenaed municipalities and said, come and explain to us why this and that is, why are you not doing this? And I would strongly suggest that you perhaps on the finances see in terms of the legal mandate whether you can subpoena those municipalities. It has happened. And the Committee on Local Government subpoena those municipalities, the councillors, the mayor, the speaker, the deputy mayor, the MM, the CFO, and so on, and that they come and explain to themselves. But from where I'm sitting in the department, we don't get resistance from municipalities whether we want to do the work with them. But that Chairperson is my recommendation. And this is on the advertising. So it has increased. So it's anti-vandalism. It has been identified as a critical aspect that we need to tend to, because myself and the minister was in Matikama, and an entire water treatment works was carried away, vandalized. The only thing that was there was just a bin. So Mara spends money on boreholes. He spends money on generators, and the cables are stolen, the motors are stolen, it's vandalized because some of these boreholes are deep in the mountain. So they've got no security and so on. And for both of us, we've given funding for cameras just to monitor the boreholes and so on. So there's vandalism. And part of this anti-vandalism campaign by the government, we've rolled it out to municipalities, is to raise awareness among citizens. If you're going to vandalize this municipal infrastructure, you're not going to have water, you're not going to have wastewater treatment works, sewage, and you're not going to have other facilities. So rather protect the municipal infrastructure as far as service. And that was for us important. There was indication of awareness about fire, Colin can speak to it, and also about water. We in the province thinks, load shedding is affecting us because each of us is affected. But when we open the tap here in this province, there's water coming out. But Maris is doing also work around water security and water resilience. And we must raise with citizens the importance of saving every drop. And that was also a campaign that we launched. The minister, I think, went on radio, the various pamphlets and that kind of stuff. And then the consultants included a geohydrologist or the hydrologist, and they're doing excellent work for us to secure water. And then there's the aerial firefighting and obviously the training. But perhaps Colin and the CFO and Maris can also talk to that. It's a specialized skill. I mean, we don't have helicopters. So we go out and we procure the helicopters and help us. And so that's why just the various campaigns cause that the amount has increased from 23, 24 to 24, 25. I'm not sure, CFO, if you want to add.
Through you, Chair. I'll deal with advertisements, consultants, and operating expenditure. Okay, so, and then also the total underspend. So the total underspend was 14 million. That's across the department. Of that, we had asked for a 3.9 million rand rolled over and 6.2 money that needs to come back to the department in terms of payment for the video wall. So in total, it's 10 million rand that needed to come back for either commitments or expenditure that needs to go through. So effectively, that leaves 4 million as the underspend for the financial year, and that would have been predominantly COE money. On advertisements, so the increase was mainly due to various awareness campaigns that were conducted. In program 3, that's water use, anti-vandalism, educational awareness on fire safety awareness, and the fire awareness campaign. So that's the substantial increase. On consultants, why JG Africa? It's the service provider that's been appointed to do the geohydrological services on the 15-year provincial water response plan. So that's the service provider. And then operational expenditures, predominantly a contractual obligation that the department has. And it is for the photocopy machines. So it's mostly the photocopy machines and the costs associated with all of the printing that happens within the department, but also the specialized printing related to the booklets that were issued this morning, the Know Your Ward Committee campaign, those types of things all goes into printing, and that's part of the 1.1 million rand. So that's it from me, Chair.
Thank you. Members, questions? Member Kontlo?
Chair, you know, I'm just worried sometimes, you know, when you explain HOD through you, let's not miss that one. When one is explaining this specialized services, don't make the assumption that we understand what you mean. We're trying to understand how the money of the taxpayers was spent. So that's why I asked even earlier on, be as elementary as you can, so that you justify why you are having this particular company, you know, having to provide this service. To just say it's this one doing some water services for us, you understand, I don't. So I'm requesting that, and I'm going to request it for the last time, for just the colleagues to just explain so that we understand why out of everything you would have spent the money of the taxpayers on this, you know. So if I can ask that indulgence, Chair. The last question from my side, Chair, for the day, is I think on the grants in the last pages. I think they start on page 191. Yes. I just wanted to understand just a pattern one was picking up in these grants. One of those patterns, for example, if you look at the municipal energy resilience grant, the service delivery grant, you know, you would see that the money was allocated, and then it says where it gives the percentage of spent, it will say 0%. So I'm just wanting to understand whether at the time of the reporting of the annual report, does it mean the municipalities would not have spent the money? Is that what it means? You know, so I'm interested to understand that in terms of the grants. But also with the others, Chair, if you look at the Community Development Worker Operational Support Grant, you know, you have a Langeberg, which would have spent almost 100% of the money, with NICE at 94%, and then you have others that would be spending even less than 10%. So I'm just trying to understand this spending pattern of the municipalities of these particular grants, because these are issues that are always coming up, especially with National Treasury, about the underspending at times of the municipalities on these grants. So if maybe the department can just shed light about that. Thank you, Chair.
Miss, is there any other questions? Okay, there's no other questions. HOD?
So, Honourable Chairperson, thank you. I'm going to give a responses on the management of the grants within the department. Then I'm going to ask Sandra, particularly just to highlight, and then also Nazuka just on the community development grant. So, we petitioned the Provincial Treasury for funding to support municipalities in the form of grants. So, at the time, there's two versions. So the one version is that we will actually allocate the funding in the main budget when we table the main budget, because we have done a due diligence process within the department. We've engaged municipalities around the needs. We understand what the struggles are within municipalities. Well, not struggles, but challenges. And in certain cases, we are ready to table in the main budget. And then as soon as that is tabled, the Gazette is tabled and published by the Provincial Minister of Finance based on the agreement that is transferred to a municipality. But some of these grants, also based on a due diligence process, is also only confirmed in the adjustment budget process. And then there is a Gazette that flows. So the adjustment process takes place October, November, and then from November until the 31st of March, that money will flow in the form of transfers to municipalities. The municipalities can then spend that money until the 30th of June in relation to their financial year. So they spend that money. So at the time when we concluded on the annual report, it might be that some of the municipalities haven't started to spend. Where you perhaps see that municipalities have spent and spent large amounts, it implies that that money was already transferred during the main budget process. So then there's normally in August, July, there's normally a rollover process that's been considered within the department, and we work very closely with the Provincial Treasury, where there's commitments and where the funding has not been spent, or they've gone through a supply chain process, procurement process, and there's valid reasons why they haven't started spending as from the 31st of March till 30th of June. That is then being assessed within the department, and recommendations are made to the Provincial Treasury to say, okay, roll that funding over to the next financial year of the municipality, implying 1st of July the following year. So, and Chairperson, that is based on diagnostic assessments around the ask of municipalities. It is based on the MTech engagements that we do have with municipalities, assignment, the time, and so on. So there's various assessments that inform how we support municipalities. And then Sandra can explain. Sandra then leads a committee, a grant committee in the department that looks at the due diligence, that the governance compliance, that we have done all the stuff. And they then make recommendations based on various assessments. They make the recommendations to the accounting officer. There's discussions with the accounting officer, and then that is signed off by the accounting officer as the real need and the areas where we want to focus. So there's extensive due diligence process within the organization. And perhaps, Sandra, if you, I don't know if I've spoken on your behalf, but also then there's just on the community development workshop.
So HOD, Treasury has become quite strict with regard to rollovers. So if a municipality at this stage doesn't apply for a rollover and specifies what grant it is and does it within a specific time frame, the rollovers are also not approved. So in terms of the annual report, Honourable Chair, in terms of the annual report, all our municipalities have spent. We've got 2 closeout reports. The others are all in process of spending. The only rollovers that will not be approved is one rollover because the municipality never applied for a rollover. The other rollovers will all be granted based on the recommendations that we've provided to yourself, HOD. It's a very strict process also in terms of legal compliance. We've got a business plan. And the business plan that we receive from the municipality must align to the transfer payment agreement. We've got specific project managers that are supposedly to manage the transfer payment agreement. So we need monthly, quarterly reports depending on what's contained in the transfer payment agreement. And we're then able to monitor that accordingly in terms of spend or any barriers that come into play. Thanks, Chair.
Nazuka.
Chair, the HOD has covered the issues around the time frame on the transfers, but I think on the CDW grant specifically, the grant is utilized to house the CDWs because we don't, as a department, we don't have offices in those areas. So what sometimes happens in some municipalities, there's it depends also on the number of CDWs that we have. So it's approximately 18,000 more or less per CDW. So if you have 1 or 2 CDWs in that municipality, it's easy for the municipality to offset. And I'm making this as an example. I'm not saying that it applies to all. It's easy for them to quickly offset the cost to house that CDW immediately against that amount. And then in some instances, municipalities take longer to first utilize their own funding before they offset the exact costs against the CDW grant. In some instances, it is a matter of the person who needs to interface between managing the CDW grant and the offices of CFO or on the budget side. That interface takes longer for them to be able to account for the funding. So it starts to speak to the spending patterns, but in some instances, it's the delay. It also speaks to the time frame when we transferred. So if we look at the transfer payment agreement, when they come back from the municipality, there are instances in the CDW grant where we've transferred around September, October, and then there are instances where we've transferred around February, for instance. And then if they've got 1 or 2 CDWs, they've got obviously until the 30th June to be able to spend the money. But that process to either spend directly, send the cost there to offset it, or first start with their own money and then come back to it. So it's quite difficult to be able to say this is actually the exact spending pattern in terms of the CDW grant. It's easier on the two-song grant because on the two-song grant, you are transferring for a project. And there, the municipality, in terms of their preparedness, if they must go to supply chain management process, you are able to pinpoint because you've got a project plan there. Then you know if you transfer around this period, they would have advertised, they would have appointed. And if they have not appointed by the time that at the end of the financial year, by the end of their financial year, we know exactly where it would be. So there it's easier because we've got milestones. On the CDW grant, it's because they are housing the CDW. So it could be the cost for them in terms of their accommodation that they offset against that. So it's quite a difficult one on the CDW grant. It's easier on the other grants that we have.
Thank you very much. Members, is that it? I'm going to ask the HOD Minister to do concluding remarks, and then I'm going to ask Member Johnson to do the thank yous. I can't do the thank yous every day, so Member Johnson is the first to do the thank yous. Over to you, Minister.
Chairperson, no, from our side, thank you to you as the chairperson and to the members of the standing committee. It's always very interesting to and a bit nerve-wracking to sit aside to field the questions, but it makes us stronger, better at the end of the day. And thank you to the team, the HOD, the CFO, and the whole team for preparing well the necessary documents that you require. We will send that to you, and out of that, there will be a further discussion and further debate. Hopefully, at the end of the day, we can just ensure that there's better services to the citizens of this province. Thank you, Chair.
Honourable Chairperson, thank you. I think for us it's important to understand also how the committee thinks about local government and what's the kind of recommendations and how you can support and assist us and provide guidance and so on, apart from the oversight. And I do appreciate that. And so it's I mean, for me personally, it's quite interesting to see sort of the questions, but also the thinking and the approach and so on. So I speak on behalf of the entire organization. Thank you very much for the oversight and asking the questions. I mean, we will go back and reflect on it. And so how do we come back better? There's still lots of work to be done. The local government elections lie ahead of us. And yeah, we need to keep municipalities fairly stable so that service delivery can be delivered. And obviously, the Auditor General is working closely with us, as do other departments. But from our side, also thank you very much to the CFO and her team, to Albert and his team, and also to all the senior managers and also the staff that's back in the office and at homes and so on. I think all of them have contributed to the growth of the department, and I do appreciate that. Thank you very much, Honourable Chairperson.
Thank you, Member Johnson.
Thank you, Chairperson. While sitting here, I actually thought of last year this time when you kept catching us off guard with having to do the thank you. So thanks for allowing me to do the first thanks for the start of the annual report season. I have actually followed some of the proceedings this morning, and I would just like to say that thank you for the way in which we could engage with the department today. I know it's been a long day, but I think from the committee side, we are grateful for the way in which you have responded to some of the questions that might sometimes get a bit heated. It's not, don't take it as a personal attack. I think everyone in this room is just trying to do the best for the citizens of this province. So thank you very much. I know it's been a long day, and we will probably see some of you on Friday again. Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you very much, members. We're going to take a 10-minute break. There's tea and coffee served. Refreshments, if you want, the department, you're welcome to go and have some tea and coffee refreshments. And then we'll come back after 10 minutes. We'll ring the bell. Thank you very much.
raise the matter procurement by other means and to limited bidding, etc. And the department said that they can give us a report on that, Chair. Chair Member Mkondo raised another matter, the vacancies in Program 2, which the department also said that they can give us a breakdown of those vacancies, Chairperson, and the impact on the department. And then Chairperson, Member Stoffels raised this matter regarding struggling municipalities, governance challenges that persists in municipalities, etc. And the department indicated that they can give 2 documents, the financial recovery plan, as well as the departmental support plans to those municipalities. So those 2 documents, Chair. Chair, that's about it, Chairperson, from those discussions, Chair.
Vik, you had your hand up?
Yes, Chair. I think I was just the AG had mentioned that there's some report that they'd issued. I don't know if it was May or June, that they would send on to us. So that is that report. So I think we must just get that, and then I think dealing with the AG's report that they've given us now today, where we've had part of this discussion, and I just felt that the department hadn't obviously properly prepared for that. Now, to me, I would have thought the solution is that we ask them then to come and give us an update report relating to that AG briefing that was given to us at some stage in
And I hear you. I just thought, it started January 2023, so surely the department must be aware of it. But what we might also do is ask the AG these recommendations. Did you engage the department? So when the department can, so tomorrow we ask the AG, listen, you've put down recommendations here. You put down is the department aware of it? And then if it's not, we'll work something else out. But I think that's maybe the way to do it, to ask the AG, is the department aware of these recommendations or not? And then it's not unfair if they tell us, no, they have engaged the department. I think maybe that way. And if they're not, and we bring it under intention, then we go to your plan B to say, listen, you'll have to come brief us again on those things. That's outstanding. Right? Anything else, members? Is that it? The meeting is adjourned. Thank you very much.